Ariel Sharon, one of the boldest and most reckless Israeli leaders in history, had come into office by stirring up the Second Intifada, allowing Sharon to win the election and become prime minister. But he then was unsuccessful in suppressing it. Suicide bombings were going on every few days or every week in Israel. I mean, it was really causing more and more Israelis to decide that the country didn't have a future and they had to leave. And many of them actually were planning to relocate to the United States, were looking for jobs here. That all dramatically changed once the 9/11 attacks took place, because suddenly America's number one focus became fighting Arab terrorism everywhere in the world. America suddenly was joined at the hip with Israel in a battle against all the countries in the Middle East and all the groups that were hostile to Israel. No country in the world has benefited as much from the 9/11 attacks as the country of Israel. Ariel Sharon was an extraordinarily reckless and bold and daring individual. I mean, he many times bet everything on a roll of the dice. He is exactly the sort of individual that would take this dramatic, colossal risk of organizing an attack against the United States in hopes that it would save Israel from what seemed to be an endless sea of local Palestinian terrorism and would improve Israel's strategic position. So we're talking about, plenty of time he came in as prime minister. He would have had months to prepare the attacks. The result is America's had 20 years of war and followed, and America's been devastated while Israel has benefited tremendously. And the last 20 years have probably been among the best 20 years for Israel economically and strategically, because America has destroyed all of Israel's enemies in the Middle East.
With the exception of Iran.
With the exception of Iran. The reason Israel has never been punished is that so much of the American media is so extremely pro-Israel or under pro-Israeli control or influence that almost none of these facts are ever reported in the media, so most Americans are unaware of it. So what you have is basically the American political leadership very, very nervous about doing anything that will offend the Israeli lobby, and the American media that prevents ordinary Americans from hearing of any of these things. The Israeli Mossad was probably involved in the Kennedy assassination, the assassination of John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert Kennedy. So if you can get away with assassinating the President of the United States and then possibly planning the assassination of another president, George H.W. Bush, if you get away with that for decades, at some point, something like the 9/11 attacks by an especially reckless leader like Ariel Sharon becomes a very real possibility.